and everybody around me, I wasn't really fulfilled, and I didn't realize what it was. I did tests like the Myers-Briggs and all sorts of things that always put me in a different category to everybody else. So one day whilst I was on holiday, I saw an ad for National Geographic. They were launching in Europe. And I said, that's what I want to do. And all the way through, I was following my Ikigai without even realizing it. I got the job for marketing director for Europe, and I was over the moon. So I spent about 14 years with National Geographic. It took me to various places from London to Spain, Brazil, Hong Kong, Tokyo. And I worked with photographers, explorers, and all the things I love to do. But then National Geographic was taken over by Fox, and the values started to change. And I was slipping out of my Ikigai without realizing it. And so I left. My values didn't feel like they were aligning. I left and I started up a business of my own. But all the way through, I've mentored, I've coached many, many women, many who I'm still very much in touch with. And I became a career coach, which I absolutely love. And that's how I know Lisa. So that's a little bit of background.
Awesome. Thank you, Sonia. So as we get into what Ikigai is, I love that you shared with the audience that is what kind of drew you to it. But could you tell us a little bit more, especially living in Japan, how much influence does Ikigai have over there? And give us a little bit of background into that.
So in Japan, people are, well, let me say the concept of Ikigai is quite old, but recently it's had a revival and people are starting to look a little bit more closely at what it is that their Ikigai is. So there are two streams, really. There are people in Japan who are very much what we call salarymen, who are going through processes and motions of a job. But there are others who are really following their Ikigai. And the Ikigai is the crossover of passion, of mission, of vocation and profession. So it's what you love doing, what you're brilliant at, what gives you meaning, and what job could pay for that. So if you think about the places that the people live the longest in the world, it always comes back to Japan. There are islands in the south of Japan called Okinawa, and there's a place outside Kyoto. And both places, the age, the longevity is about 120. So average age, not just one or two people, of some of these villages is 120. So people have studied this. Why is it that people are living so long? And invariably, it comes down to the Ikigai. There's also a new study, actually, which shows that there's some probiotics in the gut, and that's being developed. But we won't go there. We'll stick to the Ikigai theme at the moment. So what they found is that people in these areas are still working in the sense of they might be running a knife business or a mask business or ceramics or something like that, where everybody has a function. Everybody is still involved in the business in terms of them having a love for what they're doing, a strength because they've done it all their lives, their families have been involved in this business. There's an interview with an 86-year-old woman who went very quickly downhill when she was moved from being the accountant for her knife company to not having a role. And so her purpose suddenly disappeared and her health declined. So in Japan, it's very, very studied and longevity is high, coupled with health and good eating and so on. But it's mostly about finding your purpose, your spark. What is it that makes you wake up in the morning and say, yes, I love what I'm doing. I want to get up. I want to deliver. I'm part of a community, a business, whatever it might be. And that's how we know in Japan that the communities where they live the longest is where we see a really fulfilled Ikigai.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so timely right now, isn't it? Because this great resignation, the pandemic, people reevaluating their work, understanding that maybe there's more to their lives and their careers. Have you been seeing the same trend in Japan?
All across Asia, yes, there's definitely a trend of people starting to think about what is it I want to do? Not what should I be doing? What do my family think I should be doing? But what do I want to do that fulfills me? So there's a lot of work now going on with my clients. I do a lot of work in terms of finding out what it is that really is their passion. Just today, I was speaking to somebody who loves human behavior and data analysis and is results driven and all these different areas that we work on to find what is it that pops out. And we've settled on artificial intelligence, which is a mixture of human behavior, of data, of trends and so on. And I'm super excited to have landed it, and so is she. So now we'll go into the process of trying to find what it is. But definitely, given the pandemic and time to think more about ourselves and what do we want to do, a line in the sand from the processes and the busy lives that we've led. Yes, a lot of people are asking much more. What's my spark? What's my purpose? What's different in me that I can give? And to find yourself in a company where your values align. So that's, yeah, absolutely a trend, Lisa.
Great. Yep. Same thing, having conversations every day where people are burnt out or they're just at the end of the day, not showing up in life or with their families in a way that they know they could do better if they had a little more purpose and meaning in their work. I know that you're familiar with it too. I've been loving this book. And it was the Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life, Hector Garcia and Francesca Morales. They studied in
sequel.
Oh, perfect. Yes, there you go. So anyone that wants a tip on reading, this is the first one, and then Sonia's got the second one. So that is a really great, and I'll put a link in the description of this event so people can click through. One thing that really stands out to me, and this is the work I do with my clients too, is digging into like the day-to-day. And I love the concept of flow. Like when you get into the groove, you get into the flow of your work, what is it that you do that just time flies by?
That's
right? And that is so fascinating how with your client, you ended up on AI. It can be such random things that we discover with our clients. And I always say that it's so powerful when someone holds that space for you and as a neutral party who can just look at it very objectively. And, your background is so fascinating. And then mine is very different. But, when I was 11, I did write to National Geographic and said I wanted to be a photographer.
So did I.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes.
I've still got their response.
Yes, I got a response too. I need to dig up the letter. I love that they do that. That is amazing. We have that in common. And I always say that there is a lot of power in recognizing what was it when you were a child that you loved to do and you thought about doing more of as an adult, like that, obviously the classic question of what do you want to be when you grow up? And I look back to that time in my life, loved photography as well. But what I loved the most was when I would open up the magazines of National Geographic and I would dive in to learning about people and culture and what made them tick. Fast forward now, and I found my Ikigai. Being a career coach is exactly that. I get to work with people around the world, dig into their lives and what makes them tick. And so finding patterns like that, right? Do you find that as well with your clients? Like you dig in and you find these things that you never would have put together until you start framing it in this way. Like, what is that flow? What is it that keeps you engaged?
Absolutely. Well, Ikigai is related to flow. So flow was developed by a Hungarian psychologist who looked at being in the moment, in the zone, where everything you do is almost involuntary. You're so absorbed by what you're doing and by what you're learning and by what you're giving, that it's something that you love and you don't even realize the time is passing. And anyone who tells you how much they love their role has found their Ikigai. So for example, in National Geographic, I spent many months in the Washington, DC office, and it felt like you were on holiday. It was also fascinating. And this summer, actually, in the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, which were delayed by a year, I worked in the Great British Lodge, and I spent a lot of time interviewing people, just sort of on the side, athletes, performance analysts, chefs, medics, about what it was that they loved about their job. And everybody had found their Ikigai. They loved doing it. They were great at it. It gave them masses of meaning, and the energy in there was contagious. And I'm sure if you look around friends of yours, Lisa, you'll find people who you just know they've hit all the buttons. They're alive, they're happy doing it. It doesn't feel like they're working. It's just a natural thing. So that's what I talk to my clients about, is aligning values. When you feel absolutely right in a place where you're on fire, you're alive, you're open, you know that you're hitting your Ikigai. And it's not just one, we can have several Ikigais, as I always say, but it's about finding out what's different about you and getting out of any toxic environments or places where you don't feel heard, or whatever it might be that just doesn't align. That's because you're in the wrong place. I always tell my clients, don't change yourself. Change your surroundings, because we are our best selves when we're authentic. And that's all part of finding your Ikigai.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You know what I've also found, especially right now with so many people doing this search internally, is that people need to be really careful not to worry about what's cool or what is acceptable from a narrative standpoint. Because there are people out there that can find that flow and find that Ikigai when it's something not glamorous, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I love to talk about my husband. He can dive into data and spreadsheets all day long and be happy. And I'll tell him how excited and thrilled I was of who I talked to during the day. And he's like, aren't you exhausted? I'm like, no, I'm energized. He said, I would not want to do that all day. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do your work all day. So
I think it's also important, Lisa, to recognize that it's not just a selfish purpose. And that's where the Japanese element comes in. Ikigai is all about finding fulfillment without disregard to others or society. So it's about being a part of something and giving back. So whatever you're doing in terms of your Ikigai, there's always that reward and meaning in it, because sometimes we do things that don't necessarily give us meaning or give the greater meaning to the community. But the true sense of the word Ikigai is you performing with regards to others and with society, which I love. I think that's a really nice touch.
Absolutely. Yep. And everyone has a role, and no one is above another, right? We all need every different personality and interest, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. Did you have any more stories you wanted to share today?
I guess with women, because I'm personally invested, especially having been in Asia for a long time, where the opportunities for women sometimes aren't as great yet as Europe or the US, but personally invested in helping women. Women are the backbones of communities. We all know that. We're mothers, sisters, family heads, carers, breadwinners, home builders, mediators, whatever it is. And in many countries, the societal norms and institutional factors prevent women from fully performing in an economic and public life. So I know the United Nations set out to try and change this journey, that whole empowerment of women. But I think what I'm noticing more is how coaching is such a pivotal factor in the change of women. Often people will get a dog trainer, or they'll invest in a fitness coach or an academic coach for their children. But actually, the most important thing is your career, because that spans right through everything in your life: financial, emotional, the relationship you have with your partner, your children. If you're not happy and fulfilled in your career, it's very hard to have everything else stable. So I think it's more and more important that women take up coaching. And it's something that I wish I'd done when I was younger.
Oh, yes. Another thing we have in common: when I was going into the executive suite, I finally discovered coaching. And, at that time, because I wasn't at that salary yet, it felt like a lot of money. I would do it 3 times over. It was the game changer.
Right. Well, I didn't discover it for a very long time. And I think probably the US is ahead of the curve in that. But I think now, what I'm teaching or helping others with, if I had that done to me, and many of my friends say this as well, oh my goodness, how differently we would have, possibly differently we would have seen things. Whether we would have changed anything is hard to say, but you definitely see things differently. And there's no stigma attached to taking coaching, which I think previously there was. It was really reserved for the C-suite, whereas now it's everybody. I've just taken on somebody in Moldova, a woman who's just saying, I just want to make a difference. How am I going to do this? I'm like, oh, wow, I want to help you. I love it. It's that we all recognize that it's just a part of moving forward in your career.
Yep, absolutely. That's what everyone at the top has in common, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep. There's a reason. Yeah. I always liken it to cleaning someone else's house, where there still can be some stigma, where I've heard women tell me, like, I just feel like I should get a job. Like, my friend's got a job. Why would I need coaching? Because then I feel like something's wrong with me. And I said, no. It's you have this cloud bubble, and being able to pull down the relevant pieces to go for that job or figure out your Ikigai or help with that. There is absolutely no shame, because it can be really hard with partners and family members who have, quite frankly, their own agenda and their own biases. And so having a neutral party, for sure, it's like we can just go in and clean the house for them really quickly without that distraction and without the bias, right?
Yes, I liken it to winning the 100-meter race. You'd never do that without a coach. Of course, you took a coach on to get you better and better and better. So why wouldn't you do that with your whole personal life, your career? So absolutely. And I always tell my clients also, I'm not going to be running across the finishing line. You are, but I will help you all the way to get there. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a question in the chat from Adam Wong. He said, what if your passion purpose betrays you? AKA, what if the passion purpose turned out as something not as satisfying after 10 years into it? Oh, such a good question.
That is a good question. I'd love to hear a bit more detail on that, almost before commenting, but I feel like what Adam is saying is that it was his purpose and now that's changed. Is that what you're hearing, Lisa?
I'm picking up on that too. But if Adam, if there is more context, please drop it in the chat. I'll keep my eye on it. And then next comment was, Chinese parents should hear this. They always tell us to change ourselves to fit the environment. Same.
Right. Actually, that's really interesting, Adam, because I've coached here, lectured at universities here in Japan. And the overriding question is, should I be working for money or to fulfill my passion? And I'm always saying, if you can do both, but driven by passion, that's where you want to go. Following your purpose, your Ikigai, doesn't mean that you're going to be earning a low salary. That's what most people get wrong. If you are doing what you love, you're going to fly in it, whatever that might be. But definitely Asian parents push their children into doing roles that are, the vocational roles rather than the purpose-driven roles. But what I'm hearing you asking is if my purpose changes, what happens there? That's absolutely fine. As I said earlier, you can have more than one Ikigai and it can change. So now it's a time of just take a line in the sand, take a moment to reflect, think about what it is that's not working for you, go back to your strengths, your skills, so what you're brilliant at, what you love doing, what gives you meaning, see if it's what isn't aligning, and then take a leap into something where it starts fitting together again. So you'll have a ton of transferable skills that can then just be tweaked into some new role that gives you that meaning that perhaps is what you're missing. Again, without knowing all the details, it's hard to say, but if I did, and I'm very happy to have a chat with you, Adam, I could be much more clear about it.
Yeah, I think you're hitting it on the head. He did add, and I'm sorry, I don't know if you identify as male. I'm using the verb he, but you can correct me if I'm wrong on there too. But details, I'm in academia for 10 years. I got my PhD. I found the salary is not as much as an undergrad. So certainly sounds like one of those situations of reevaluation time, doesn't it?
Definitely. So take what it is that you love about the subject matter and try and work that into a role that pays. But happy to go through more details. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and the environment is toxic. Yep, there it is. Yeah. A lot of times we find that the work might be very fulfilling or something on track, but yes, the environment or the organization you're with at the moment, or the people left and the people are why you were there, fulfilling your bucket. And so that is a big part of Ikigai, right? Is you figure out what it is that is your purpose and the tasks and the roles, but then you do have to find the right environment as well.
That's right.
But stripping the people out of it to make sure the tasks themselves are aligned with what you
Yes.
find fulfillment. Yeah.
This is why with my clients, I do a lot of work on values, because different companies will provide different values. So if you know what values are really true to you and what values are really not you at all, and then you look at all those moments of your strengths and you look at your moments of your skills, your passions, bringing the meaning together, you'll soon start honing into what jumps out at the top. So it might be another example, a French client who's living in Japan, bilingual, bicultural, working in a soy sauce factory, very lauded because of her ability to connect two worlds, the rest of the world and Japan, and soy sauce, which is very Japanese. But she just wanted to work in beauty. As we unraveled all the things, she just said, the only thing that really makes me feel alive and so on is beauty, makeup, and so on. And so we pulled out all her transferable skills from her current role of working with distributors, the international markets, marketing, sales, business development, and looked at transferring those into a role within the beauty industry and taking into account that she was French and spoke Japanese. We looked at a Japanese company rather than a French one, where she would be bigger and have her values more aligned, because then she could jump back to France with that Japanese company and much easier than she could with a French company. So she ended up with Shiseido and in a role. But it's wonderful putting all these pieces together and getting to that moment where we just go, yeah, that's what I want to do. Absolutely. Or another client who was working in an American health tech company in an administrative role in HR, but her real passion was DEI, diversity. And she loved training. And anyway, we sort of flipped it, everything that she was doing on its head. And she's also gone into a DEI training role where she's writing the programs and delivering them. So again, just finding out what it is you love and then landing or driving in the right direction and then hopefully landing there too.
Absolutely. I'm going to share my screen again. There was a delay on the beginning of our segment. So I want to share this again so people can see it, what we're talking about with Ikigai, if you have not seen this before. And what Sonia and I do with our clients is we evaluate all these different sections. Like there's the skills. What are you good at? What do you love to do? Because just because you're good at taking out the garbage doesn't mean you love to do it, right? Some people do. I know a garbage man who loves his job. So I am not downplaying the roles that are out there, but just to illustrate that there is a junction there. And then what does the world need and where can you find the income for it? I think a lot of people struggle with, they think that their passion can only be where they volunteer or where they do it on the side because they don't know how to transfer their skills. Do you find this, Sonia, with your
Absolutely. Well? I have a client like that at the moment who is a brilliant project manager, program manager at a tech company, but her passion is working with the homeless in the US. And she's always felt that that would be a drop in salary and so on. But we're turning it right around. She needs to be going up in salary because she's delivering incredible skills that the organization needs. Mm-hmm. So no issue at all, but you're absolutely right, Lisa. That's a good point, that people think their passion is just their side volunteering or so on. If that's your passion, turn it into a job that pays you and pays you what you deserve at this stage of your career.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So I'll stop sharing that screen and I'll change my view. Okay, awesome. Well, one other thing I would love to ask you, Sonia, I'll switch gears slightly, but this is female mentor conversations. So giving a platform for women who are experts at their craft. So again, thank you so much. Living and breathing Ikigai in Japan. Being able to share your knowledge and your wealth of experience with everyone on this call. what I love to ask female mentors about, because we talked about it earlier, how we wish we had coaches younger. We wish we knew some different things to look for during our careers. As we put on the mentor hat, is there anything that you would like to share with women early in their careers in conjunction with what we're talking about? Like, what is it that they can focus on when they're trying to find this, especially, I'll put a caveat, especially women that are maybe starting a family. Maybe they're looking at, how would that look? How can I do all of it? How can I have a career, have a family, have meaning in my career? Is there anything you would like to share as far as your wisdom and what you've learned?
Well, I think many things. I think now we are much more aware of having a seat at the table and having a voice, and the fact that we can and should bring up families and focus on our families and so on. So I think there are a few things. I mean, it's kind of be bold in leading. Because not only are you doing it for yourself, but you're showing the next generation, your children and so on, that you can do it. And you don't have to do everything, but what you do, do it well. I think also, I would say, put in the work. I mean, it does take work to build a business and so on. And change doesn't happen if you're afraid. So you do have to move yourself forward and make a difference and believe in yourself. And that's something we work on a lot, is sort of imposter syndrome, especially with women. We always feel, I sort of laugh sometimes with my clients, because they'll look at a job description, and if they're female, they'll be saying, but I can't do this bit and I can't do this bit. If they're male, they're like, well, actually, yeah, that's sort of good. And it's incredible, but it doesn't matter if you don't fit every single criteria. You are amazing in what you can deliver. So we'll work on the interviews to make sure that you're getting there. So it's kind of, don't be in fear of what you can't do. Be bold about what you can do. I also think with women, we need to look after ourselves as well. So sort of self-care. We tend to try and do too much. It's absolutely fine to step out and let others do things that can be done by others, so that you can focus on what you want to do as well. And we're always, as I repeat, teaching a lesson to the next generation. But it's kind of re-narrate what your head is telling you. So take out those unhelpful thoughts and focus on the good, because there's so much that we can do. And also we need to lean on each other. So work the friendships that you love and that love you. And we're in this together, women. So we need to be helping each other at the table and not tripping anybody else up. We need to help each other and encourage each other and believe in ourselves. So I think that's where I've seen issues in my career. As I was one of the only women in a senior leadership position within News Corp Asia. And I'd see it with the younger women coming to me to ask for sort of advice and guidance. And I would always have their voice at the table. So I think we look out for each other, and let's keep doing that rather than just ourselves in a single manner. But we can do it. So let's believe in it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Starts here.
Right.
And also women supporting women. We cannot take that for granted, because we still have a big struggle with that. And a lot of women that have made it to certain positions think that there's only one way to go that route. And to your point, things are changing. And actually, I'm seeing a lot of male advocates who completely lift women up, which is fabulous. And so we need to recognize that it's not, the gender bias is not just a man's problem.
No, absolutely. There's, brilliant leadership and teamwork, but there is it probably comes from the women as opposed to the men. It's that imposter syndrome, which we need to work on and bring out the awesome. Everybody's got awesome. Let's bring it out. And that's where the Ikigai comes in. If you're not feeling awesome, you might just be in the wrong place. So it's not about what anybody else is saying or doing to you. It's about the thoughts that you have in your head. So align your values and your skills. If you are I talk to my clients about mastery, autonomy, and purpose. If you can fulfill those three things, being the master of what you're delivering, be autonomous in doing so, and fulfilling your purpose, then you're flying. That sort of hits all the buttons. And that's kind of where I try and lead my clients. If we can tick all of those off and land somebody, then we got it.
I love it. Yes. And to the people early in their career listening to this, and people that have more maturity in their career, track it, write it down. When you come work with us, we're going to ask you all those questions. Where's the data? Where are your achievement bullets? Like, keep track of it. There's a lot of power in having that portfolio of work to share, and then create that resume to get that new opportunity, and even to help quiet the imposter syndrome. I find that a lot when I turn a resume for my clients and they look at it and they go, oh my gosh, that's me. Oh, right. That confidence bucket just fills up so fast.
I had somebody cry when they looked at their resume for the first time. I was like, this is great. This is you. There's nothing made up here.
Right.
It's changing the narrative. So women especially, make sure you change your narrative.
I love that. Oh, such a good thing. Is there anything else that you would like to share today before I tell everyone how they can get in touch with us?
Not really. No, I'm my company's called Ikigai Executive Coaching for the reasons that I talked about, just because I'm such a great believer. So really, it's kind of three parts. It's firstly finding that Ikigai. Some people absolutely know what they want to do, and that's brilliant. And then we work straight on to the second part, which is the communicating that. So actually building your personal brand. You are a brand. So everything that goes within that, the way you tell your story, the way you talk about in interviews, the way you the way the resume looks, the LinkedIn profile, all of that is your new brand. And we practice on really communicating that so that you feel totally full in your delivery, whether it's on salary or whatever. You'll have said it so many times, and this is important too, that you totally believe in it. And then the third part is about getting you in front of the recruiters. So yeah, all starts with the Ikigai from my perspective.
I love it. So people can find you at Sonia Jackson on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also there's a LinkedIn page, Ikigai Executive Coaching, or you can find me at sonia@ikigaiexecutivecoaching.com.
Okay, perfect. And I am going to repeat myself, Sonia, hang on with me one second, because like I said, there was a delay in the live working. So don't forget, please, if you're enjoying these conversations, to like and subscribe to the channel so I can keep bringing female mentors to you. My mouse, there we go. And there's that beautiful subscribe button. Just as a reminder, throw us a thumbs up, set reminders for future conversations. If you're subscribed, you can chat during the session. My passion project is Her Career Studio. It's hercareerstudio.com. This is for women that are early in their careers looking for some guidance and support with affordable group coaching. And we'll continue to bring female mentors like the wonderful Sonia Jackson today to these conversations. So if you are someone that identifies as this, or you know someone who could really use some support, gift them a membership or send them my way. I'm happy to do that. And then Sonia and I are always happy to review resumes, jump on phone calls. Lisa Virtue Coaching is where you can find me, and also booking calls. So same, Sonia and I both, if one of us resonates with you and you'd like to jump on a call, please do. And find your Ikigai. We just want to spread the love to fellow lovers of the world and people. National Geographic from a young age. I love that. It's brilliant. Sonia, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And have a good day. Yeah, thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.